cabinet level people, top people at the CIA, Pentagon, but also in Congress on oversight committees. Since the 90s, I've been meeting with people, and in the early 2000s, who were Senate Intelligence and House Government Oversight. None of those people had been read into this subject. All of them, even when they made inquiries, were brushed off or threatened, the way Admiral Wilson was. So I think people need to understand that an organization that behaves that way is no longer protected by the laws of the United States or any other country they operate in this fashion, in an illegal fashion.
This concerning just the language that was brought up, and we're looking at it very closely. Another thing that caught my attention was the off-world material or material that's been recovered. And one of the eyewitnesses basically stated straight up that there is no evidence recovered one way or the other. What's your thoughts on that? We'll run the clip.
When it comes to material that we have no material. We have detected no emanations within the UAP task force that would suggest it's anything non-terrestrial in origin. So there's when I say unexplained, I mean everything from too little data to the data that we have doesn't point us towards an explanation. But we'll go wherever the data takes us. Again, we've made no assumptions about what this is or isn't. We're committed to understanding these, and so we'll go wherever that data takes us.
Thank you. That's very helpful, and so I think it bears emphasis. When you say we can't explain, everything that you can't explain is in a bucket called data. Is that correct? And that would mean data collected by sensors, visual observations, everything that we can't explain, quote unquote, is in a bucket called data.
Right. A narrative report from the early 2000s, if it just had a little bit of information on it, would be in our database and it would be unresolved.
I would add to that, it's insufficient data. I mean, that's one of the challenges we have. Insufficient data either on the event itself, the object itself, or insufficient data or plug-in with some other organization or agency that may have had something in that space at that time. So it's a data issue that we're facing in many of these instances, Congressman.
Understood. Thank you very much. Yield back.
So you just heard it. Nothing recovered, off-world or otherwise mundane stuff, if anything.
Well, you see, this is another huge problem. Either these two witnesses have not been read into those projects, which is possible. Maybe they're the people underneath them that are penetrating those operations or giving them plausible deniability in advance of this hearing to keep them in the dark. I mean, Washington operates that way. Or they're lying under oath. So again, I get back to my opening comment. There is so much abundant evidence and direct firsthand testimony and even documents that are top secret that we've gotten about the retrieval of such material and the study of it. There are reams and reams of information on this that I've been providing and giving heads up to these investigators where they're located, where the SCIFs, the secure communication information facilities are, and the deep underground military bases, the DUMBs, are located that are holding this material. And they now know. Now, whether or not these two witnesses have had the people under them or in other parts of the government not read them in on that, it's possible. I have not had a conversation with either of these two witnesses. But if they don't know, well, that's a complete failure of being a proper manager and a proper leader and an administrator. And then why are they being called in front of Congress to testify at all? But if they do know, and they have been read into this, then they lied under oath. And that's, of course, a federal criminal offense.
So it's basically SCI, sensitive compartmentalized information. And we don't know. Maybe these two witnesses don't have access to some of these other projects that are above top secret. So either they're lying.
It's possible.
Yeah. So
but there are people working underneath them who are hooked into that system I'm dealing with. So the question is, where is the breakdown on intelligence? And if there is one, then they need to fix it before they go in front of the Congress and the American people again. Or there's a problem with deception happening. But you don't have any other choices on this.
You know, and there's a statement that was interesting where they said that there's an authoritative that they answer to, but we didn't get that person's name and who's that authoritative. Let's bring up another statement about the UAP phenomenon, whether the military has engaged them with any kind of firepower or have they engaged them militarily. And again, there was a reaction said that there was none whatsoever. Have we engaged in military action against the UAP as far as some of the information you've received? Let's listen to the clip and let's kind of body language this.
So we don't even put out a alert saying, you know, U.S. Identify yourself. You are, you know, within our flight path or something like that. We haven't said anything like that.
We've not put anything out like that. Generally speaking, you know, for example, in the video that we showed earlier, it appears to be something that is, you know, unmanned, appears to be something that may or may not be in controlled flight, and so we've not attempted any communication with that.
Okay, so, and I assume we've never discharged any armaments against a UAP, correct?
That's correct.
So there you go. They're admitting that we haven't shot. Again, is this information that they're not privy to?
Well, again, that's a completely false statement. It's demonstrably false. We have the testimony of Merle Shane McDowell, who was at the Atlantic Command, underneath the SINC Atlantic Command, Admiral Harry Train, when we scrambled jets in the early 1980s and fired on a UFO off the coast of Newfoundland that was on 5 radar stations. We scrambled jets, fighter jets, who did fire on it, but we did not successfully down it. And he is on the record, and we have other events where there's documentation and top secret military personnel in the Disclosure Project. I mean, go to my YouTube channel and you'll see. We have people like others who have actually been on retrieval teams. I just presented this new top secret witness who was in the 2000s, was on a retrieval team, recovering both extraterrestrial but also man-made UFOs that were roughly triangular, that were electromagnetic field propulsion devices. And all of that we presented at the conference last month in Arizona, in which that information has also been handed off to the government investigators. So there are many, many, many cases like this over the years. In fact, thousands of cases where this has happened. And so for these people to say they have no knowledge of anything, anyone who would